Okay, good morning, everybody. Sunday morning, 6:07. Sorry, I'm late. We have a lot to today. We're 4 pages behind, 4 dafim behind, and so we got to do at least two. So hold your questions if you can. They'll be answered usually in the next few lines of the Gemara. If not, you can catch me afterwards the whole day. And it's always nice to review the Gemara, so you can review it with any of the great Rabbeim online at alldaf.com, advertisement for them, or just go onto YouTube and hear the same class I said over again. Still probably have the same question. Anyway, we thank Hashem for the ability for and letting us to learn. I thank Rabbi Smith for hope all is well by him for allowing me to give this class. We're learning for Refuah Shlema for his father's, whose name, gotta look it up because I always forget it. Give me a moment here. And going back a moment here. No, wrong Ellis. Eli Lemons of Tony, where are you? Find where it says Eli Smith. We can find his name in a moment. Also for Shlema for Naftali Ben Menucha Bela, also Abraham Ben Shoshana, and for my son who still needs a continuing for Shlema, Uriel Gabriel Ben Rachel Chaya, Tehillim is Mem Gimel. If you want me to tell him for today, I would appreciate. I'm sure he will appreciate. All right, and the Rabbi's Father Tzvi Alevi Ben Miriam. Also, please Hashem, bring the remaining hostages who are alive, keep them, bring them before Shlema, before some of us are good, back alive, and the ones that haven't made it, bring their bodies back to Israel. All right, let's put an end to everything and let's have Mashiach now and all that jazz. All right, my timer. All right, we're on 64A. What about a quarter of the way down from the top of the page? 30. All right, my timer. What was the reasoning behind Rabbi Bar Avuha's advice? All right. Mishum de Kasava Dmei Avodas Kochavim Biyad Kochavim Mutarim. It was he that holds that money for the sale of an idol in the hands of an idol worshiper is permitted. So up until now, we kind of had two opinions. We said if a Jew has an idol and he sells the idol and gets money, the value, in the inherent value, meaning the prohibition of the idol goes into the second paperclip, right? Goes directly into the money. The Jew can't benefit from that money. Just like he couldn't benefit from the idol, he can't benefit from the paperclip. And we can go into variations on this thing. But a non-Jew who is an idolater, he wants to sell his idol. He can sell whatever he wants, all right, fine. And the money is good money. And they can use that money to buy or sell it. You can come to a Jew's store and buy stuff with it. We can accept that money, right? Because it was told that it was he that holds the money from the sale of an idol in the hands of an idol worshiper is permitted. Hence, by instructing the converts to sell the idols while they themselves were still idolaters, he ensured that they were permitted to benefit from the proceeds. So, in case you forgot that case, it was what if some convert? It was a case of a group of converts. They came in front of this rabbi that we just mentioned, and he said, they want to know, can we sell the idols that we have, and use the money? And he held that they can. And we're going to go into detail. How is it that they can? All right. Because if they're converts and they're Jews and they have idols, technically Jews who sell idols cannot benefit from the money. So why is it that converts who somehow got, and we're going to detail idols, they can sell their idols and still benefit from money? We see that when an idolater sells an idol, the proceeds are permitted for benefit. The Gemara rejects the proof. Right. Why? Maybe that case is different in the case of idolaters that convert. The Cheben de Date go Yure Vaday Butler. For since the idolater, here they didn't even convert yet. Their intention is converting. They're still going to conversion classes. Okay. For since this idolater intended to convert, he certainly nullified this idol before he sold it, thereby negating its idolatrous status. And that's the reason why. Since it was no longer an idol when he sold it, its proceeds are permitted for benefit. All right, so it's kind of an interesting situation. He was still non-Jewish. He was still an idolater because he hadn't gone, professor. He had not gone through the conversion process yet. So he sold it, and since at that point he was not Jewish yet, he could, say, "I don't believe in this anymore." Therefore, he could get its proceeds from it, and therefore was permitted. However, an idolater that sold an actual idol, however, an idolater sold an actual idol, the proceeds might be forbidden. So now we're asking a question on the original statement where we said that an idolater certainly can sell his idols, and that money would not be forbidden, which it would be to a Jew, and then he could use that money to go shop in, let's say, a Jew's store, and the Jew can benefit from that money. Paperclip doesn't continue. Rather, we may derive the possibility of this money from here. So we're going to have to give another case where we see why he was allowed to use this quote-unquote person converting was allowed to use the money he got from selling an idol. Yisrael shianose be'obekochavim. All right, listen, it's a different case. If a Jew is dunning an idol worshiper who owed him a money, we were going to look up what does dunning mean, because I don't know what that, Professor, you know what dunning means?
I think you got it right. It was like nudging.
That's what I thought, but let's just look it up here a second. Dunning. Siri, what does the word dunning mean? Dunning. Hold on.
What's this one?
Cleverness and skills at sly, crafty, and surreptitious, which I don't know what that means, behavior, can also refer to being deceitful or evasive. That doesn't help anymore. Anyway, so a Jew was doing something to an idol worshiper that owed him money. I guess he wanted to get the money, all right? So he's being nudged enough, whatever it is, or threatened enough, or whatever it was, and the idol worship went, and he just sold one of his idols and brought him the money. He didn't want to mess around, all right? What if he went and sold some of his nesech wine, again, wine that he uses for idolatrous purposes, and brought him the proceeds? Mutar, it says there the money is okay. So if he spontaneously, what's another word for that? Professor, what's a better word for spontaneously? It's even
random.
No,
Instantly.
No, it's a long word. Extemporaneously, something like that. What's the word? Anyway, if he just went on the spot, he said, I'm going to get, hey, sell this quickly, sold it here. Hey, he's paid, 1, 2, 3, pays him. Then he's allowed the Jew to take the money. But if the idol worshiper said, hold on, don't pressure me. Wait until I sell an idol. Put it up on the auction next week, and I'll bring you the proceeds. Or I'm going to do this with my nesech wine. Also, then it's not prohibited. So it's a different situation, extemporaneously. I think extemporaneously, something like that. Anyway, in that case, it was allowed. However, if he says, just hold on, I'm going to get to my this and that. Now we have the situation that we learned the other day where the Jew is stuck with having to wait for the idol to be sold, or it's just like waiting to get paid while he's breaking the barrels. And he's kind of happy that the barrels of wine are around. There's 100 barrels of beer on the wall. All right. And here, he's getting benefit out of waiting because he knows if he waits, he's going to then get paid. All right. And he's not allowed to get benefit out of waiting. We had learned the other day. Maishna ratio, Maishna sefer. So what's the difference between the Bryce's first case and the second case? Because we said first the money's permitted, and the second time we said it's forbidden. The first time we said in this Bryce was the guy said, okay, selling my other 1, 2, 3, sells it, here's the money. All right. And the other one he says, just Hatzachain, hold your horses. All right, we're putting it up at auction next week. Sotheby's or some other fancy auction house is going to sell it for us. And we'll get more money. We'll get more money because we're at auction. The machas in town, they're coming to buy the idols. They're coming from India, Pakistan, all the other places, American Indians that worship idols of some sort. Actually, American Indians worship the sky and the land, and take out the American Indians, the other Indians, right? Rav Sheshes said, "Sefer mishum dehava leid ki rotzim b'kiyumo." In the second cases, which is what we just said. mouth is dry. In the second case, where idolater informs him of his plans, yeah, thanks. The money is forbidden. Make sure the bar was closed. Yes, it was. Okay.
Yes.
Because he's like the one who desires the existence of an idol. So basically, at this point, it is not allowed whenever the money that he's going to get will be delayed in coming because he is getting benefit in waiting for that. One moment.
Man. That's not permitted. Yet.
It's not permitted in that case. When he gets benefit from waiting, it is not permitted. That's the safer, the latter part of this price. For until such time as the idolater sells the idol, the Jews wants it to remain existent. All right, because he desires the idol's existence, the rabbis forbid him from the money of its sale. Got it.
Wow.
Okay. The Gemara questions Rav Shesh's explanation, right? That Rav Shesh's. Okay. Laz has a hard time with words like this when he's learning Shesh's. All right. For it is then forbidden to desire the existence of an idol in this circumstance. All right. Now, this is actually a question. We're going to bring another Mishnah and raise a question. For we learned in the Mishnah, which states, what if you have two brothers? One brother, and they both started as non-Jewish, and they were both started in idolatrous family as of the Avodas Kochavim, as idolaters. All right, but one remained that way, and the other one became a ger, a convert to Judaism. Right? Sheyoshu Abim Ovid Kochavim. All right, and their father, who still had been and had remained to be a idol worshiper. He passed on, and they received inheritance from him. So we're going to ask the question here. Ger Yecholoma, the convert brother, all right, let's call him Moshe, all right, said to his other brother, let's call him Mark, all right, he said, you take the idols, and I'll take the money. Torah, how do you make it quiet? Just one moment. Where we mute. Okay, that mutes the other people, right? Not me. All right. No, that muted. All right, forget. We don't know how to mute anybody. All right. But we learned in the Mishnah. So the ger could say to his brother, I'm just repeating those few words. So you take the idols and I'll take the money that's in this estate. All right? Because the money is allowed to have. You go take the nesech wine, the wine that was going to be used for idolatrous purposes, and I'll take the regular produce. All right, that's how they're split. In Mishabol, L'Rishas Hagia. However, so that sounds like it would be good. However, if the idols and wine have already come in to the convert's possession, okay, let's say he already owned it. All right. Saw the exchange is forbidden. He can't go then to his brother and say, look, I need to make a trade with you because I just converted and I can't have this stuff or any benefit from it. So let's just read in English what it says here. The Mishnah in its first clause allows the convert to claim the permissible items while leaving the idols and nesech wine for the idolater, which is his brother. Although the convert will certainly desire the continued existence of these items until such time as he actually takes possession of his share. This exchange is still permissible. So even though it's in probate court, let's say at this time, it's still allowed to be done since his desire is not accompanied by a corroborative action, in which he's not really doing anything. He's just passively waiting to get it. Likewise, then, when idolater tells his Jewish creditor that he'll pay him after he sells an idol, although the Jew temporarily desires the idol's existence, he should be permitted to benefit from the proceeds of the sale, for his desire was not made concrete by any action. Why then does the price forbid him the benefit of the money? So what we did was this, what we brought, we're raising a question on what we just learned in the payment of the storekeeper by an idolater. All right. I need you to change it back to everybody again. I'm being distracted. Okay. The Gemara answers, Amar Rava Bar Ula. Rava Bar Ula said, Masnisim Bavas Kachavim Mischalekes Lefi Shvareha. The Mishnah speaks of an idol that can be divided as part of the inheritance, even though it is in pieces. So what are we talking about? Supposing you have some jewelry you inherited, all right? And it was a nice necklace, gold necklace. However, you know what happened? What? That gold, beautiful necklace, the wife have sold, and it was a Tiffany necklace for a lot of money. If you even if you put it on the eBay or Etsy, guess what? It broke into pieces. Oh. Okay, so you really can't get the good money for it anymore. All you can do is get its weight in gold. That's the way it is. All right. So he's saying we're dealing this wine that belonged to the idol worshiper is wine that can be divided. No, excuse me. The idol can be. We didn't get up to the wine yet. The idol can be divided as part of the inheritance, even if it's in pieces. Why? Because we're saying the idol is made of gold or silver. So even though the idol shattered, you had the weight of gold or silver, whose broken pieces retain their monetary value. That's not really a true statement, we'll learn, because it retains the value, the going value at that time for the weight of gold or the weight of silver. It's not really as valuable as an artwork of gold or silver, all right? As a piece of jewelry or an idol, because an idol worship would have paid more. Because the pieces retain their worth, this convert is indifferent as to whether or not the idol remains intact. For even if it does not, the idolatrous brother will accept the broken pieces as his portion of the inheritance. Where, however, the convert wants the idol to remain intact, meaning because then he would have gotten more money for the value when it would, let's say, be sold. In other words, to his brother even, because his brother would pay more to have, it's worth more to have. So if he's trading, I get this much money. Hey, you got that idol. That idol's still worth $100. It's not worth the $50 worth of or $75 worth of its weight in gold. Where, however, the convert wants the idol to remain intact, the Mishnah would agree that he may not designate it as his brother's share. Because then he's waiting for it to have more money. So he's waiting again. Anytime he's waiting for something that he's desirous of, that's not permitted. The Mishnah does not contradict the Brisa. The Gemara rejoins. Guess what? Tinach avodas kachavim. That's satisfactory, and that explains the Mishnah's ruling concerning an idol. Yeah, nesach ma'ikilama. But how are you going to explain the same situation if we're dealing with yayin nesach? Yeah. David, cute picture of your dog there. Okay, what is it to say? If the barrels of nesach wine were to break, the wine would be lost, no doubt. Then the convert wishes for the barrels to remain intact until the division is consummated. In other words, so we might have thought that, hey, what about we're dealing with Yesach wine? It's in the bottle, all right? If that bottle breaks and the wine gets poured on the floor, okay, then it has no value, all right? So that's not the same as the idol made of gold and silver. So yet the Mishnah permits him to name the Nesach wine as his brother's share. So how can he go and say to his brother, the Nesach wine is yours, if the barrels may break, and then the brother's not going to get any value. All right, he's saying, okay, I'm shipping it to you. You give me the money now, not cash on delivery. You sell me the money now. I'm shipping it to you. What if the barrels break in shipping and it wasn't insured? The brother gets nothing. All right, so always it's cash on delivery. He doesn't get the money until his brother gets it. In which case, he is worried about the existence of the wine in the barrel. In which case, he's not allowed to have it. So you see the questions, they keep going back and forth. Clearly, when one's desire is not accompanied by a corroborative action, it's permissible to desire the existence of Nesach wine. So too in the second case, clause of the Brisa cited above. So how are we going to resolve this? The Gemara responds to this argument, Becheres Hedroyani. All right, this is talk about Hadrianic earthenware. And what that was earthenware that soaked up all the wine into itself like a sponge, all right? And, oh, I'm sorry, Josh, I said all right. It soaked it up into the sponge. That's all right. That's all right. Okay. It soaked it up. Therefore, even if the barrel were to break, the wine is still there. All they do is it's like constituted wine. They reconstitute it by putting it into, they heat it or they put in water, whatever way. It's powdered water. All you do is add water. All right. And you got it. All right. So this wine is in the barrel. In fact, many times they would break the barrels and take it on their journeys. It's easier to take a chunk of pieces than the barrel. And whenever they wanted some wine, they take that barrel and whatever way they add some water, the wine would dilute out and from the pieces of earthenware, and they would get it. No comments. The Mishnah speaks of Nesach, save it for Judge Judy. The Mishnah speaks of Nesach stored in Hadrianic earthenware, clay vessels impregnated with wine, which is released when the vessels are soaked in water. Ah, that's exactly what I said. In this case, it wasn't I thought it up. I learned it right.
Impregnated, is that a family?
No, yeah, it's all right. It meant that it absorbed the water.
Got it.
In this case, the convert don't ask for problems when there are no problems. In this case, the convert does not care whether the vessel remains intact, for even if they are broken, the wine can still be extracted from the shards.
The problem is the barrels have babies.
Stop it. The Gemara presses on. V'shelo yavdu, v'alo ratzeh b'kimo shelo yignevu shelo yavdu. But doesn't he desire its continued existence in that it should not be stolen and not be lost? Again, we're talking about the convert, the brother who's a convert, until all these deals are settled, that he wants to make sure it'll still exist until then, because maybe it's going to be stolen or lost. Granted, he is indifferent to breakage. That we're agreeing with. Okay, the earthenware is good, but that doesn't help the idolatrous brother if it's stolen in the interim or the merchandise is lost. But he's undoubtedly concerned that the wine be preserved from other mishaps. Still, the Mishnah permits him to designate the Nesach wine as his brother's portion. So what do we see from that? We see that where one's desire is not made concrete by an action, there's nothing amiss in desiring the existence of idols and their ancillaries. So too, in the Brisa concerning an idolatrous debt payment, since the Jews' temporary desire for the idol's existence is unaccompanied by any confirmative action, the money should be permitted. I'm saying that, but it's saying it b'tmiya as a question. The Gemara, every time we say something, we think it's the answer, it's always a question that the Gemara is asking, and then we'll get another answer. I have to say, when I was in college in YU, so I had a Rabbi Rav Kreiser. When he would give a final exam, he gave 12, this is true, this he gave, at least to my memory, he would give, let's say, 10 questions, all right? And you did your best at answering it. Open Gemara. And he'd say, if you don't know the answers, grab a chavrusa, answer them together, look it up, give the answers, he says. And if you don't know the answers to the questions, figure out what these questions are answers to and just give me that as the answer. All right. And I never understood what that meant. And now I understand, because each line in the Gemara that seems to be an answer, yeah, finally, it took me only another 50 years, 60 years, whatever it was. I was 15, I'm almost 75. But yeah, it took almost 60 years more. That's ridiculous. Wait. 50, I'll be 73. Let's say it was 13. That would be 6 years different. Whoa! Oh, am I behind? Ella, I'm a rough papa. Rather, a papa said, Yerushas Hagir Kamras. So did you say, this is what Papa's saying, that we apply this prohibition desiring the existence of either with no corroborative action with regard to inheritance of a convert? Shani Yerushas Hagir. If you're saying this is in the case of the Yerush of a convert, that's a different case altogether. But the inheritance of convert is different. Because the rabbis were lenient with regard to the inheritance of a person, a convert from his father. because they were worried that this convert may go back and say he's annulling his conversion because all of a sudden his father died. His father was a multi-billionaire in the idol and Nesach wine business, and he wants to get his share. And he says, hey, being a Jew is one thing, but passing up on all this money is something else. And there's really a lot of temptation. So ordinarily, one would not be permitted to desire the existence of an idol, even if his desire wasn't accompanied by action. Yeah, we said that, but the rabbis here said, we're going to let him slide because this is just a case that a person cannot handle. And we don't want him, after he's converted and spend years in going through conversion, all right, to go and question it and now go back. Because guess what? Once a Jew, always a Jew. As we used to say, you can change your noses, but you can't change your Moses. And this guy already had his nose sharp. All right, here we go. So what's the proof? The Gemara cites a Bryce in support of Papa's statement that a convert inherits his father by rabbinic decree only. Okay. As it was taught in the Brisa. This is amazing. Again, what's a Brisa? Brisa is nothing more than the Mishnah. It's just a lone soldier Mishnah. It's a Mishnah that doesn't have a Gemara to it. So we're bringing it from somewhere else. It's a freestanding Mishnah. And we keep on trying to grab these. They're all over the place, all right? And use them as proof for our Mishnah or another Brisa at hand. Okay. Tanya Namihachi. So we learn. And so it was taught in the Brisa. But Medvam Amurim. In what case were these words stated? That a convert dividing property with an idolater can take the money and leave the idols for the idolater. The case we keep on repeating. Shiyoshu, where they inherited the estate and they're dividing the assets. About Nishtadfu also. But what if the convert had a partner in the business and that partner it wasn't his brother, it was somebody else who was an idolater. All right. They had a business. Idolaters are us. All right. And they sold, but they made a lot of money. The Jewish guy who was a convert, he was the woodsman. He was cutting up all the wood, and the other guy would put the wood, the gold and silver, and he'd make it into idols. Now they want to sell the business. There's a problem because no matter what, when they sell the business, this is really all idol stuff. The convert cannot benefit from it. And that's the truth. He can't. He loses out. He just lost the business, go start again. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you snooze, right? Or whatever the saying is. All right. So in this case, he went into the wrong business. And if a person goes into the wrong business, and Hashem decides, guess what? You've been in the wrong business. It's time to leave and start a new business. Okay. So they sat and inquired. Gir Toshav, this is now a new situation. So the Gemara states another inquiry by the Amorim mentioned above. Remember, there were three, Rav Nachman, Ula, and Avivi Bar Papi. I love that name, Papi. All right. Hada Yasfu, right? Papi. Hada Yasfu b'kami lahu. They sat and they inquired. Concerning a resident alien. This has nothing to do with what's going on in politics now with the resident aliens, all right? Concerning a resident alien, and that's the Hebrew term for a ger toshav, and we'll define exactly what that is, and there's several opinions. What is the law regarding whether he can nullify an idol? So initially you say, well, why should there be a problem? He's not Jewish. Well, guess what? Right. It depends. Even though he's not Jewish, maybe he is Jewish, a ger toshav. So we have to define what is a ger toshav. All right, we will. A stranger who's living in Eretz Yisrael. The falach mevato. Perhaps we say that only one who worships idols can nullify idols. The lo falach, lo mevato, but one who does not worship idols cannot nullify them. Again, earlier on we said, who can nullify an idol so that then it can be used for monetary purposes and be sold? Only a non-Jew that's an idolater. But a Jew can't do it. So if a Jew had an idol and he sold the idol, he can't use the money. So the question is now, what about a ger toshav? All right, a ger, a convert who's living in Israel, but it's a limited conversion, as we will see. Yes, that's what a ger toshav. This is not a ger. This is not a convert. This is a specific category. And we'll have three different answers interpreting what a ger toshav is. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Ger toshav. He cannot nullify them. Why?
What do you mean by nullified? Right.
In other words, in order to go and be able to use the money from the sale of the idol,
Right.
one must say, I don't really care about this idol. It's not an idol anymore, as far as I'm concerned. I can sell. Only an idol worshiper can do that because it meant something to him. He gets rid of that emotional and religious attachment to it. It's worthless. He can sell something that's worthless or pleat, or whatever. We had a word for it, futility, before. I can't remember what it was. He can sell that, but a Jew cannot sell it because he never had the connection to the idol. So the question here is now a new situation of a ger toshav, right? And ger toshav in general, as you see, they didn't worship idols. That was like step number one to become a ger toshav. Accordingly, resident island, next line, who do not worship idols would be unable to nullify them. So that's the question. What if a ger toshav has an idol that was one he owned before? Now he wants to sell it because he needs some money. He can't sell it. In that case, it's like he's a Jew. He can't sell that and use the money. Paperclip number one, the red paperclip to number two. Or perhaps we say, whoever is of the idolater's own kind can nullify idols, even if he does not worship them himself. Or do we say, because he was born an idol worshiper, he's still DNA-wise an idol worshiper, but even though spiritually he's not, because he doesn't believe in it anymore, but he has the rights by DNA. He went and he did a swab and he sent it to 23andMe, and it said, "Oh, you come from idol worshippers, and therefore he's whatever, and therefore he can sell it, and therefore if he can sell it, he can get the money from it." And this person is a Medalzo kind insofar as both, hold on a second, as both do not observe other Torah commandments. Again, the idolater doesn't follow 613 mitzvahs. And the ger toshav, at least according to this opinion, also doesn't follow 613 mitzvahs. Because if he followed 613 mitzvahs, he'd be a ger, a tzedek, he'd be a Jew. All right? So he's one or the other. Either you get toshav or you're a Jew. So you're giving me an answer that, you're wavering in this answer. Therefore, he too would be able to nullify idols. So according to this answer, he could, because he's not a full Jew yet. He's not Lubavitch yet either. All right. Again, Rav Nachman, he's just a ger toshav, period. Again, Rav Nachman resolved the inquiry. Amar lahu Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said to them, "Bistabra, the falach mevato, the lo falach lo mevato." It stands to reason the one who worships idols can nullify idols. One who doesn't worship idols cannot nullify idols. All right, the Gemara is going to challenge this, of course, because we just gave us an answer, so now we're going to question it or challenge it. A moment. They challenge on the basis of the following brisa. Again, grab another brisa off the shelf. Let's challenge this one. You ever see these guys in the base megas? All they do keep on running over the bookshelves, they're grabbing another survey. You wonder if they're just trying to find something to challenge what it is. Probably not, really. They're looking up something, all right, but whatever. It could be. A Jew found an idolatrous idol in the street. He's walking around, and he found an idol. Whoa, look at that. There's an idol. He said, as long as it hasn't come into his hands, he could say, "Oh, yo, you're an idol worshiper? Yeah. Oh, you know what? Is that yours? No, but that's an idol, right?" He says, "Why don't you mevatel it? All right? Why don't you just, nullify it? Only an idol worshiper can nullify an idol.
Yeah.
Yes, what a smart yid to make business. So he gets him to nullify the idol.
Right.
Now that it's been nullified, it's been un-OU'd as not permitted,
Right.
all right? It lost its idol worship hechsher.
Right.
It now can be sold by the Jew. He can make money. What a smart shtick.
Did he
All
pay
right.
the guy?
What?
Did he pay the idol worshiper to?
Oh, he just scammed him. He says, well, you believe in that? Yeah, go nullify it. Okay. Omer loved kochavim matla. So he instructs the idol worshiper, and the idol worshiper nullifies it. Mishabasa liyado. So, however, once it comes into his hands, and Omer loved kochavim matala. But let's say he picked it up and he held it away. He did a kinyan. He now owned it. It doesn't work. All right, because now the Jew owns it, and he can't have the idol. He picked it up.
Too bad.
All right. Yeah, too bad. Now he picked up something, and by doing that, he made it worthless to himself. Because it is worthless to himself. Meishamu, for the sages said, Ovi kochavim vato avodas kochavim shelo v'shel chavero. Now we have a question. However, once it has come into his hands, he cannot instruct the idol worshiper to nullify it. If Shamu, listen, it says, because the sages said that an idol worshiper can nullify his own idol and that of his fellow. Now, with fellow, they're not talking about his fellow Jews. They mean his fellow idol worshiper. Right? Bein Avda or Bein She'eno Avda, whether he worship it or he does not worship it. Okay, now for clarification, and we'll go into a little bit more detail. There are a lot of different idols out there. Going idols are us. There's so many different ones. There's Buddha-looking idols. There's ones with a lot of hands. Medusa-looking idols. They come in all, shapes, colors.
All this about idols.
What? I went by idols are us. I happened to, they were running in here. I saw the paper here. All right, couldn't help it. And then I said, I'm not looking at this. Okay. However, so what they're saying in this sentence is that even if he doesn't worship that idol, it's not his religion, even though it's the religion, and again, an idol worshiping religion of another guy, right. He can still nullify it. Because as far as a Jew is concerned, idols don't mean anything to Jews. All right. So the idol worshiper, he understands all about idol worship, so he can nullify an idol because he can. That's interesting. Yesterday he prayed to it, and today he says, it's nothing. I'm going to just sell it. Don't give me everyone Vino's father story. Okay? But he knew yesterday when we were preparing this, I was learning with Hilo, and Hilo says, Avram Avinu. I said, wait a minute, Avram Avinu. He says, don't remember if he busted it all, his father came in, and Avram said to him, the idols broke it all. They had a fight, and his father said, "Hey, you're kidding me? I know they don't do anything." So he knew that they didn't do anything. So here, basically, I mean, they can, whatever. Ben Avda, Ben Shelo Avda. So we're saying here that an idol worshiper can nullify an idol, even if it's someone's other idol. My Avda, my Shelo, Sheno Avda. So what did this mean? If you say in the Brisa, this means both this one and that one, meaning both the one who owns the idol and the one who nullifies it are idol worshippers. In other words, if it's a case of two idol worshippers, this can't be correct. For the Brisa would then be teaching that an idolater can nullify the idol with fellow, even if he does not worship it. But this teaching is implicit in the Brisa's earlier words, his own idol and that of his fellow. Let me fish in, I'll explain again, which tells us that one idolater can nullify another idolater's idol, even if he himself does not worship it. Elalav of the Oved Kochavim. Rather, does not the term he worships it simply denote an idol worshiper? Seemingly, it does. Maishna Avda. And what does it mean by he does not worship it? This refers to one who does not worship idols altogether. Ger Toshab. So again, when we were said the original terms, he worships and he who doesn't worship, in those cases that let's say one worships Mercury, and the other there's Tabal Poor, another worship. Then one can nullify that of the other. But if the other guy is a ger toshav who doesn't at all worship idols anymore, then wait. This refers to what there's difference, namely ger toshav. Namely, he too is able to nullify the idol. Who's to? Who's able to? We're saying the ger toshav. The problem is here, according to the word, it does not refer to a particular idol that was found, refers to idolatry in general. Okay, the problem here in understanding this is that each sentence really is a question that's leading to the next sentence. So sometimes when I read the answer, so at this point, the real question is, what is the status of the ger toshav? Can he nullify something, an idol, at all? Or that's really where we're headed to. The Gemara concludes its challenge to Rav Nachman. Shmamina ger toshav nami mevato. Thus, you've learned from this that a resident alien can also nullify idols. The original question is, how can he nullify idols? He doesn't believe in idols anymore. But we answered that he came from idol worshippers. And then we use a sentence, shalom, v'shalchavero, this, that, and we somehow include him in this. So at this point, we're saying this. But this contradicts the ruling of Rav Nachman, which we said before, which you don't remember anymore, so don't worry about it. The Gemara deflects this challenge. Lo, as the Israelis say. Lo. All right. Lema, no. Really, I'll say to you, this one and that one, both the one who owns the idol and the one who's asked to nullify it, they're both idol worshippers in such a situation. And the Bryce is teaching that although each worships, this is what I mentioned earlier, a different idol, so one is able to nullify the idol of the other. With the Kamrina, I know Shalo v'Shlo Chavero, and that which you stated, his idol and that of his fellow, rather, the earlier clause refers to a case in which this one and that one, the owner of that found the idol, and the one asked to nullify it, gives the allegiance to the deity of Peor, or in which this one and the one gives the allegiance to the deity of Marcos. That's why I mentioned earlier, in which the two people are actually, they worship different idols. Even though we started this questions with, what if a Jew finds the idol and asks the other person? Somehow we wanted it to two idol worshippers, and one idol worshiper we knew can nullify it. Now we're saying, can he ask his friend to nullify it, even though he doesn't worship it? So the plot is getting thicker.
Yeah.
Safe as Elif or Vizela Marcus. However, the latter clause, where he worships it or whether he doesn't worship it, refers to a case in which this one, the owner who found the idol, gives his allegiance to Peor, and this one, the one who was asked to nullify, gives his allegiance to Marcellus. Let's say that's Mercury. The Brisa teaches the Marcellus worshiper can nullify the Peor idol or vice versa, and the rule is that an idolater can nullify even an idol that himself does not worship. Thus, the Brise's final clause does not concern the resident alien. Yeah. So we see that it's not talking about a ger toshav. All right. Accordingly, it poses no contradiction to Rav Nachman's ruling, which I've totally forgot what it was anyway at the moment. The Gemara challenges Rav Nachman's ruling on another grounds. Once again, Mespe. They challenge the basis of the following Bryce, took another one off the shelf. Ezu ger toshav. Now we're going to have to define what is a ger toshav. What is a resident alien? Kol shekiber alav b'fnei shlosha chaverim. Someone who came, it was an idolater, he came in front of a court of three chaverim, meaning based in of three, shelo lavos kachavim, and he said, I don't plan on worshiping idols anymore. All right, so he's basically swearing in court that he's not an idol worshiper. Divrei Rav Meir. That's where Rav Meir holds.
The green card. Okay,
so Rav Meir says, in order to get the green card of being a resident alien, he had to have done the following. He goes in front of a court of three, a Jewish court based in three chachamim, as they call in the Gemara, and say, I don't worship idols anymore. And then they say, okay, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. All right. It sounds like what we do by a Torah Siddur. You don't have idols, blah, blah, blah. All right. Okay, the Chachamim, but what do the Chachamim say? They hold it different. Kol shekibu alav sheva mitzvos, shekibu alav b'nei Noach. He says, no, that's not enough to just get rid of idol worships. He says, he still has to be Mekabel, he still has to accept the 7 Noahide laws. All right, and for a list of those, you can grab something from the shelf and read them. They're pretty much found mostly within the 10 Commandments. You have to know which ones to find and how to interpret it. Anyway, whoever accepts upon himself to observe the 7 commandments that are the descendants of Noah accepted upon themselves, and the Rebbe had a whole campaign that we should try and influence non-Jews, not necessarily idol worshippers, but idol Jews, idol non-Jews, just people who just, hey, at least you know what, do these Noahide laws, because you do these Noahide laws and you will get favor in God's eyes, our God. And that's why you just kind of have a backup plan. Okay, others say, the third opinion is, guess what? We still haven't defined the Ger Toshav. The guy who went to based in the Jewish Court of 3 and said, I don't worship idols. He's not. The one who said, I'm following the 7 Noahide laws, the second opinion. He's not. So what do the Acherim say? This third opinion. Who is really a Ger Toshav? Zegir Ocho Nevelis. This is a stranger who eats Nevelis. Nevelis is basically meat that was we have said Shekiba Levakaim Kol Mitzvahs Amros Batorah Chutz Nevelis. This guy actually said, I'm taking all 613 mitzvahs. He wanted to be a full-fledged Jew, except one thing. He liked hunting. I don't know. He liked roadkill. He said, I still want to eat the kind of meat that's not, the shechita wasn't good. The ones that the shechet factory, kosher meat factory said, we can't. This shechita didn't work out well. We found something wrong with it. We're selling it to the non-meat factory. This guy knew that meat was cheaper, so or roadkill was free. So he still wanted to eat that. So because he still wanted to eat what we call nevelas, all right, and it's kosher meat that's what could have been kosher meat, but is not kosher and it's dead. Because of that, he is called Ger Toshav. So we have 3 definitions of what a Ger Toshav is. The Brisa continues various laws pertaining to a resident alien. It begins with the matter of a Jew leaving wine under the supervision of a resident alien. Miachadin, and again, resident alien is a person that was an idolater that converted it to a certain limit, 1, 2, or 3 that we mentioned before, and is living. It only applies he has to be living in Israel. We can leave temporarily. I got to step out for a moment. I have this bottle of kosher wine. I'm leaving it by you for a moment. There's an unopened bottle of kosher wine. They didn't have this. We couldn't look at it. There's the extra prohibitions at that time. Then of kinetz lo yain say, we can leave it temporarily by him, but we can't deposit by him for long periods. He can leave it for a moment, say, I'm stepping out, be right back. That you can trust him. He's not going to do anything, this Ger Toshav. But you can't say, listen, I'm going on a business trip. I'm going to be back in 3 months. I'd like to store it by you. There's too much temptation in that amount of period, and it might become nullified. Even in the city where the majority are Jews. Why do we say that? Because they're saying, well, maybe he'd be scared to mess up anything because, and he knows that if he messes it up, then the Jews won't buy it, then he can't even sell it. So even in that case, he can't leave by him for a prolonged period of time. But he may leave him alone with our wine, even the city whose majority are idol worshippers, again, for a short period of time, which we trust him for just a quick watch this a moment, I'll be right back. All right, it's kind of similar to the mashgichim that come into a store that the Jew is not in the store who owns the store all the time. So that mashgiach is not mashgiach tmidi, he's not a mashgiach that's there all the time. No, it's got to be owned by a Jew.
Right.
Not that mashgiach tmidi, but since there are non-Jewish workers there, the mashgiach can go in and out whenever they want, so they don't know when he's coming. So therefore, they're extra careful. It's like just watch it for a while because they're not left alone all the time. Okay, let's go ahead. So we can leave it by him in the wine, again, temporary, even if the majority of people there are idol worshippers. Shamino b'yeno, because his oil is like his wine. What does that mean? His oil is like his wine. I love this. It gives an answer, but we have no idea what that means. The Gemara understands this to mean, actually, I have no idea what it means. The Gemara understands to mean that his oil is treated as stringently as his wine, just as the resident's alien wine is prohibited for benefit, so too is his oil. It interprets the Brisa to ask, Shamno kiyeno salgadatach. Can it enter your mind that his oil is prohibited like his wine? Shemen mikah haveyein nesech. Is oil to be used as a libation? So we don't really understand what's going on. They don't use oil for libations for idols. So if it's not used for libations, it shouldn't be prohibited for benefit. Eliyeno kishamno. So what it really means, we're amending the Bryce to read, his wine is like his oil. That is, his wine, like his oil, is prohibited only for consumption, but not for benefit. Meaning that just like we can benefit from his oil, we can benefit from his wine if he touched it or whatever, or sold it to us, and we can then sell it, but we can't drink the wine. And we've had cases like that before, where you're not allowed to drink it, but you still can have benefit. Let me drink some water. Okay. The Gemara returns to the Brisa, which teaches a final law. To Shah Kodava, respect to all other matters, Hare Hukav Kochavim. Actually, as far as everything else is concerned, he's considered like an idol worshiper for other items. Okay, so even though a Ger Toshav is treated differently regarding as opposed to an idol worshiper, and I'm going to read you this commentary in English. The Bryce is saying that although a Ger Toshav is treated differently in the idol worshiper, regard to being eligible for sustenance, regard to matters pertaining to wine left for him, he's like an idol worshiper with regard to the matters. And we're going to elaborate on that. In other words, we have a certain obligation to Ger Toshavs in feeding them. We're going to learn. Okay, so listen to this. We're going to get some real wild cases coming up. Rav Shimon Amir. Rav Shimon says, "Yaino yain nesach." His wine is considered yain nesach, and that's thus prohibited even from benefit. That's the opinion of Rav Shimon. Another verse of Rav Shimon's dissent, because he's dissenting on what we just said, Rami Law, and there are those who say Rabban Shimon said the following. Muta b'shtia, his wine is permitted even for drinking. So we don't really know what Rav Shimon said, because one says right, something in the other opinion is that he said 180 degrees different. But let's just leave it at that. Having completed its citation of the Bryce, the Gemara shows how it contradicts Rav Nachman's ruling. Okay, Katani Miha. At any rate, the Bryce is saying, respect to all other matters, he, the Ger Toshav, is like an idol worshiper. With regard to what law is this stated? Wasn't that stated to teach us that he can nullify, when we started at the beginning, that he can nullify an idol like an idol worshiper can? That's how we brought it all up. that if you wanted to get benefit from the idol that you found, you'd ask the idol worshiper that was next to you to nullify it, then you could benefit from it. So then we said, well, what if the guy's really Ger Toshav? Can he do it? And we went in the definition of Ger Toshav. So now we're asking this question. So the Brisa contradicts the ruling of Rav Nachman. The Gemara dismisses this challenge. Rav Nachman Yitzchak, when Nachman Bar Yitzchak said, lo, as the Israelis say, a resident alien cannot nullify idols. He can't do it, as far as Rav Nachman Yitzchak is concerned. As for the Bryce's statement, it means that he is like an idol worshiper, with regard to ceding rights and relinquishing rights to Jews who share his courtyard and wish to carry there on Shabbos. So what are we talking about? Okay. Nowadays we have Arabs for Shabbos, right. Okay? So in order for the city, for the Jewish community to get we have to go to City Hall and we make a document. We're essentially getting the city to lease us the right to use the Erev on Shabbos, to use the area that we're making the Erev on Shabbos. That's how it's done, and it's official legal document. The Jewish community owns the right to carry within the Erev on Shabbos from the city. All right. So that's the only way we could do it. But let's say you just had a chutzir. You had a little group of houses on a block, and they were all Jewish. And they want to make a Erev for Shabbos. So they make the Erev around, and then they each contribute challah. So there we have a challah, and then that's the challah that is part of the Erev. They make the bracha, and it's mitzvah, whatever it is. And that's how we do it. Well, what if you have one neighbor that's not Jewish and he's a Ger Toshav? Right? So that's going to be the question here. So he says, repeating the last thing, as for the Bryce's statement, it means that he is like an idol worshiper, regard to ceding rights and relinquishing rights to Jews who share his courtyard and wish to carry there on Shabbos. So another Jew who, let's say, wasn't around at the time to give somebody says, don't worry, relinquish my rights, you can just go ahead and do it. That's okay. We're saying now even the Ger Toshav can do that. At this. Yisrael. Now,
if he doesn't, then if one of the members doesn't do that,
then we have a problem.
Yeah,
You have to kind of go around it. It's like what we call here the donut hole. Yeah. You're gonna have to leave that out. It's gonna be NMB going around the unincorporated day, coming back to NMB. All right. Okay, Tanya, as has been taught the Bride, if you don't live in North Miami Beach in this area, you have no idea what I just said. But the people who are listening to this year know what I said. Look at the color of your garbage can. If your garbage can is black, all right, then you're in NMP. And if it's green, you're in Metro Date, unincorporated Date. Okay. Good, Tanya, as it was taught in the Brisa, Yisrael Muma Mishamish Abbas To Bashuk. A renegade Jew. What's a renegade Jew? A renegade Jew is a Jew who basically doesn't believe in Judaism anymore. But he publicly observes his Shabbos obligations in public. So when he goes out in public, he does the right stuff. Right now, why he's doing that? Is it because he would be embarrassed for people to know he really doesn't believe or whatever? I don't really know. Or is he's not really sure yet? I don't know. Or is it because he doesn't want to embarrass his family? I don't know why. But the case is that when he's in public, he acts like he's a full-fledged from Jew. All right. But when he's in private, he's smoking in Shabbos, got the TV on. He's who knows who he's with. He doesn't believe in Judaism anymore and the laws of Judaism. Right? He doesn't publicly observe his Sabbath. Let's go back. Let me go back here. So, a renegade Jew publicly observes his Shabbos obligations, even though he violates them in private. He may relinquish the rights in his courtyard on the Sabbath. That guy is okay if he's one of your neighbors and you want to make an Erev, and he says, I relinquish my rights. That's okay. But what if this Jew publicly does not observe the Shabbos at all? And that he can't nullify his rights to he may not relinquish his courtyard rights, and therefore we have to go around him to make the Erev. Mitnei Shamru, because the sages said Yisrael nosen rishus mevata rishus. Only a Jew can cede rights or relinquish rights to the members of the courtyard, thereby allowing them to carry there. So if he was Jewish, a neighbor, and he can say, I'm relinquishing my rights. He wasn't around, let's say. He was on vacation in the Catskills, all right, or in Orlando, all right, if he lived here. Yeah, he said, they call him up, said, don't worry, I relinquish my rights, and they go ahead and make an Erev. But if the other neighbor, the one missing neighbor in that little area was a Jewish guy who even publicly said, I don't believe. We're not talking about Tina Shnishma. We're not talking about the Jew that really doesn't know the laws, this, that. He's not religious because he doesn't really know enough. And had he known enough, he probably would have been from to whatever extent he could. We're talking about somebody who knows this stuff. And yet he says, I don't believe in any of this, this, and that. That guy, we're saying he can't relinquish his rights. Right. But now, what about an idol worshiper? All right. In the case of an idol worshiper, is forbidden to carry in the courtyard until the idol worshiper rents his rights to Jewish neighbors. So here's where we're learning what I just mentioned about going to the city. What if one of the neighbors is non-Jewish?
Right.
He's an idol worshiper. We're not talking about a frum Jew in the house, but not outside the house. We're not talking about a Jew that knows, but he's not from in the house, and he's not from outside of the house. We're not talking about all the frum Jews, and we're not talking about a Jew that just doesn't know a lot of laws yet. All right? We're talking about an idol worshiper. That guy, it says, is forbidden to carry the court until the idol worshiper rents his rights to the Jews. And that's why we, for the larger area, go to the city of unincorporated of Miami or the city of North Miami Beach, depending on what area is covered. In this case, I think we go to both, and we get that non-Jewish ownership, all right, that stock ownership of the city to relinquish their rights for carrying to us, or basically giving us the rights to carry in the city-owned total property, and that's how we make an Erev on Shabbos. A Jew who publicly desecrates the Shabbos is, in this respect, like an idol worshiper. He cannot cede or relinquish his courtyard rights. There was a lot of explaining. I hope you understood it. The Brisa explains the process of ceding and relinquishing rights. Cases. So how does a Jew relinquish his rights? He says to his neighbor, my right in the courtyard, I'm transferring to you. Because he can make that transfer. Right? You know what? My right, I'm relinquishing it to you. I'm not really worried about it. You go do it. Kana, the neighbor has acquired the right. There's this Jewish neighbor. There's no need to convey it formally through an act of acquisition. So unlike selling something where he went to sell a cow and the guy's got to pull the cow, selling something else and he's got to lift it up. That's selling something where he has to make a contract. All right, the other ways of acquisition for Jews, in this case, all he has to do is say, hey, it's yours. It's not mine anymore. A moment. I can't believe I'm still in 64B. I got to do 65 today. This Brisa states, I don't know how to do it. I got 20 minutes. It's going to be impossible. This Brisa states, an idol worshiper cannot cede or relinquish his rights in the communal courtyard. By the way, for those of you who didn't realize, we learned today till 7:30. The earlier Brisa tells us that his law is shared by a resident alien. This is what the Brisa means when it states, with respect to all other matters, a resident alien is like an idol worshiper. The Gemara recounts an incident. I just jumped to next page, right? So I just jumped. Yes?
Rav Yehuda sent a gift.
Okay, read me the last one. Rav Yehuda gives it to me. All right, recounts an incident. Rav Yehuda Shadele Korbana. That's just his name. Rav Yehuda sent a gift, all right, La avidarna biyom idam. He sent a gift to a certain non-Jew whose name was Avidarna on their festival day.
That's Avi. Avi.
Okay, so he said. So the question is, how could he do that? All right, Yadana Bey Dilo Palach Labas Kachavan. I know that he doesn't worship idols. That guy I'm sending the gift to, even though it's a holy day in China where they have a lot of holidays. Okay, so they yeah, you can if you do business with Chinese. I'm told that they have so many. They have more holidays than Lubavitchers. Lubavitchers have really more holidays than most of other Jews. But the Chinese, they have like a gazillion holidays, right?
They're communist.
What does that have to do with communism?
They wiped it all out.
They wipe what out?
All these holidays.
Oh, but they still celebrate.
Maybe Taiwan.
They still holidays. Whatever it is. Therefore, I was told that by someone who does business with in China. Therefore, though one is forbidden to give an idolater a gift, an idolater a gift on this day. Okay, that's apparently written in the Mishnah. In Avardana's case, it was allowed. Amalei Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef said to Rabbi Yehuda, "Vatanya, then we learn Kol shekiber alav mipnei shlosha chaverim shlo lavad avodas kachavim." He's bringing the first case of the Ger Toshav. Then we learned that whoever accepted upon himself before a court of three chaverim, meaning a basin, not to worship idols, that if a Jew does not undertake before a court, they will consider that he will forsake to worship idols. He's legally still considered an idolater. That was case number one, who is a Ger Toshav. Even if he does not actually worship, it's not enough. Since Avidarna had not made this commitment, he should be regarded as an idolater. In other words, we're saying, you sent the gift to Avidarna. You're not supposed to send him a gift on this holiday.
Right.
Your answer was, it was okay, because I know he doesn't worship idols. And now the question is, okay, he doesn't worship idols, but he never formally gave that up in front of a Jewish basin and said it. So just because he doesn't do it, isn't enough. Right? So how did you do it? Yitanya he l'chayusha. With regard to that law, what this price taught with regard to the obligation to sustain the the resident alien. The formal undertaking is needed to render a person eligible for sustenance. It's not needed to remove him from the name of idolater. What does it really mean? Again, that we are supposed to sustain the resident aliens, the truly resident aliens in Eretz Yisrael. Let's not get into detail. People are going to think about the aliens here, totally confused. And there's going to be some people who are going to think about that place with the green aliens. You know, what was that called? What's that? This great tourist trap. It's something with a number. Come on. You know, where people drive through in the Midwest and they used to think the aliens were seen there, and then they sell whatever it is. Anyway, what?
do 42.
Something, what was it called?
I don't know, like
something,
42 or something.
something 42, something with a number. Anyway, it's irrelevant. It's nothing to do with Gemara. Rabbi Bar Chana said the name Rav Yochanan. Ger Toshav, Shavru Alav name Asar Chodesh V'lo Mal. Here's another new exclusion to the Ger Toshav definitions. What if you have a resident alien? Right. Now a year has passed, but they never went and did conversion by having a bris, because that's something he has to do. Harehu Kamin of de Kochavim. So he's like still an idol worshiper. We see that even though one who does not worship idols, we see that even one who does not worship idols, in this case, because the guy doesn't, he's still regarded within the group of idol worshippers if he does not convert fully by getting the bris, so he's still considered an idol worshiper. Since Avidarna did not convert, he fits this description. So if he fits this description, then how is Rabbi Yehuda permitted to send him a gift on his festival day, on the idol day? Because that looks like we're sending a gift to the idol or whatever. Hasam kigan shkibel alav lamo v'lo mo.
Wow.
Over there, it was a case he accepted conversion on himself.
Sorry.
All right, and then did not circumcise himself. All right, he was going to do it, he didn't. Where, however, he made no such commitment, he's not regarded as an idolater. Okay, so it's a difference when you make the commitment, I'm going to do it, and then for whatever reason, it got delayed. You know, there's a blood problem, a sickness, and this and that. All right, but and another one where he really never wanted to do it, and a year goes by and he's not doing it.
So he falls back to being an idolater.
He's still considered in that category. Okay, 717. You're gonna love this next case. This case, I'm really going back on. You have to use some euphemisms again. So when you learn last,
Oh, wow.
this is a wild case. Rava Amte Lek
Just make
Ravana
this.
Levav Sheshech Biyam Edom. Rava brought the gift. He brought the gift to a certain non-Jew named Bar Sheshech. He sounds like he's Jewish, but he's not. On the festive day, Amar, he said, Yadana Beidelo Palach Lavad Kochavim. I know of him that he doesn't worship idols anymore.
Whoa.
Also, Ashkeched Yosef Ad Tzavasi Baravardeh. So Rava went and found him. He's sitting in a bathhouse, and he's covered up to his neck in rose petals. You know, I mean, you can just imagine this. You see these people who take baths in rose petals. I mean, it's kind of insane. See this guy's doing that. The Kaiman Zonas Arumas Kame, and all the dressmakers are in front of him. They left their dresses at home. Okay? And that's the problem. Amalei, Rav Sheshach said to Rava, Islachu, ki hai gamna de ama. He's like really showing off. He says, have you ever seen such pleasure in the world to come? He says, look at what I got here in this world. Amalei, Rav says to him, Dina chadifet femi hai. He says, our world that we receive in the world to come, our pleasure, is much better than what you have. This guy's saying, I mean, I got it made in the shade. Nothing's better than this. You know, rose petals and then, you know, dresses that are left at home by dressmakers. They were all here. Amalei, Rav Shesha said to him, "Feme hai mi, what's better than this?" He obviously felt he lacked nothing. Amalei, Rabbi said to him, Atunika alayche imsa de malchus. Yeah. You're missing some. You still have the fear of the monarchy upon you. He goes, what are you talking about? I don't know. He's very arrogant guy. I don't know to have a alan emsa malchusa. He says, we don't have any fear of the monarchy on us. He says, Amalei, but Jesus replied, Anamiya ma imsa de malcha. He says, but I don't have any fear in the future, in the world to come of our God. He says, as they sing, all right. So in other words, the Jews saying, Rav is saying to Bar Sheshech, he's saying, I don't care. You think this is great. You're still worried about your ruler, about your king. He says, in my world to come, I'm not worried about my king at all. He says, when I'm up there, he's going to take care of me. And at that moment, as Rav says this, look what happens. As they're sitting, the Yasve Asahu Christopher DeMalca, sounds like Christopher Columbus. It means
FBI.
Christopher, an emissary of a royal emissary comes, someone from the KGB. They come and he say, get up, Bar Sheshech, whatever his name is, Bar Sheshech. He says, Amalei kum de kable Malka. The king wants to see you. Whoa, boy, he got really scared.
Party's over.
So yeah, party's over. All right. So sorry, I'm saying, all right, Josh, but get up for the king. He needs you. So this happened just after Rabba said to him, we have no fear of the king in the future. Don't tell me you have no fear of your king. But Sheshech was compelled to interrupt his pleasures and attend upon the king. He had no choice. So Rabba was proved correct. Kinafek vaso amalei. So as Sheshech was going out, he looked at Rava, and he really kind of wanted to curse him. So he kind of tries to make it look like a blessing, but it's really a curse. He says, he says, the eye that wishes to see evil upon you, let it be detached from his socket.
Right.
That's the kind of blessing he gave him. It was really cursing him out. Amalei Rava Amen. So what Rava said, Rava goes Amen.
Wow.
And what happens when you say Amen? So be it. Guess what happened? Pakene, Devar Sheshach. So his son Rav Sheshach's eye popped out of his socket. He became the victim of his own curse. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you wish for. So his sarcastic blessing to Rava became a curse. We still have 8 more minutes at least. Amar Rav Papa. So Rav Papi said, Ibai leila memra le mahave kra. Rava should have answered him with the following verse. He says he should have given a better answer. Benas melachim bikrosecha nitzvah shegal limincha bechesem ofir. Daughters of kings will honor you. We're talking about, we're bringing psukim, all right, from, I guess, it must be in Tehillim somewhere, all right? And I'm sorry, I said, all right. Daughters of kings will honor you, and the queen will stand erect on your side. Be decked in jewelry of Ophir gold. This verse demonstrates that the pleasures of Jews in the world to come will far surpass those of Bar Sheshach. Oh, what a name. The Gemara suggests another reply. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said, Ibai lei lememra lei mihacha. Rabbi should have said the following to him. I love this. Rabbi said whatever he said. And now people come and you said, you could have said something better. That's wonderful, what's that called? With the gaslighting Rava saying, I would have said so. You weren't there. You didn't know the pressure Rava at the moment. This is what he said.
Right.
That's fine. But we're still giving good answers because what we're really showing is we're showing a little bit more of what Rava meant. That the world to come is a much more beautiful place by us. And don't tell me that your rose petals and dressmakers was what made it beautiful by you, still with the fear of the king.
I
Rasa.
have some Arab friends.
Rasa Eloki Zuloscha Yasa Lamachak Lo. He's quoting, no one except yours, God, has seen that which he will do for one who awaits him. So this basically is saying, we don't even know what's going to await us in Olam Haba. Only you know. As people in general haven't gone to Olam Haba and then come back. It's the old joke. How do you know Olam Haba is so great? Because nobody's come back from there. If it wasn't so good, they'd come back. They don't come back.
A bad review.
There's no bad reviews. This verse demonstrates that the reward that awaits Jews in the world to come is beyond mortal comprehension, and thus far beyond the pleasures of Bar Sheshach. The Mishnah stated, however, if the idolater hired the worker, we're going back to Mishnah, to do other work for him, all right, so there's an idol worshiper, and he owns a factory, and it's full of barrels of wine, and he hires a Jew to move. He says, for the next 10 hours, I want you to move I want you to destroy these 10 barrels of wine, or transport. Transfer this barrel of Nesach wine for me from point A to point B. And the worker did so. The Mishnah said he's permitted to do that.
Wow.
The Mishnah states that simply the worker's wage is permitted. It makes no distinction between work performed during the working day and work performed afterwards. Basically, he came to Home Depot, he hired the Jew, he says, I have day work for you. It was a general comment to do day work. I'm sorry, I made a mistake when I said that. In this case, it's during the day. It's asking to do day work. It had nothing to do with moving wine barrels. It's just they were doing construction in the new warehouse. And he said to him at some point, which will delineate, I'd like you to move that barrel of wine to the side. So now the Gemara's, this happened at the end of the 10 hours. So he hired him at 9 a.m. It was now 7 p.m. He was ready to be paid. He already earned his keep for the day. And as he's about to pay him, he says, can you move that bottle of Nesach wine over to the other room? Jew does it. He already earned his pay. So doing that doesn't nullify anything. right? If during the day that was something he asked and it took an hour out of the 10 hours,
Right.
then he'd only get 90% of the pay or 9 hours of pay because he wasn't allowed, the Jew wasn't allowed to make money getting benefit from the Nesach wine.
Okay.
But here he was just hired in general. He had already made his money, and this was a side thing he wasn't getting benefit from. In fact, it was delaying his going home.
Right.
It's just the initial thing we're going to say. So does this mean that even if we're going to question, we're going to further kind of fine tune this case? Does this mean that even if the idolater did not instruct the word regarding the Nesach wine toward evening, when his working day was done, that's what I just said, but gave him these instructions during the actual day that his wages still permitted? We're asking that question because during the day, technically that time zone that it took, amount of time, he should not have been permitted, should be subtracted from his wage. A Jewish work, a soches, a poem, and either was a Jewish or renewal. So we're going to get answer this in contrast. But contrast this with the ruling of the following brisa. We took another brisa off the shelf, and it said, "Hasoches apoel," and either was hires a Jewish worker to do permissible work for him.
Permissible work.
Yes, 2 more minutes. Permissible work for him. Litote erev amalo. And toward the evening, when his working day was over, the employer said to the worker, "Hava chavis shal yain nesach mechem mechem." Move this barrel as nesach wine over schara muta. Then he's allowed to still get all his wages. Why? Tamed amalei litusei erev ein. The Bryce implies that the reason the wages is permitted for that is because the guy already earned all his wages relate. That's what I said previously. Kula yomalo. But had he instructed him during all the rest of the day, his wage would not be permitted. But had he made this instruction request during the day, then that block of time he would have to remove from his wages. Abaye said, "Kitnan nami masnisan." Our Mishnah 2, when it was toward its permit. Damali Tose Erev Tanan. It toward it with regard to a case when he instructed him towards evening. Okay, Rabba said, "Lo kasha." There's no difficulty. Ha damale havali meya chavis b'meya prutas. When he said it's not no problem. When he said to him in the case of transfer me 100 barrels for 100 prutas, in that case the entire wage was contingent upon the moving all 100 barrels. All right, which means that if one of the barrels contained nesach wine, the full wage is forbidden because you've been paying for a specific job of moving the whole thing. You don't move the whole thing, you don't get paid at all. Accordingly, the Brisa rules that unless he instructs him towards evening, the worker's wage is prohibited for benefit. But what if the case was, he says, "I'm paying you piecemeal every time you move something," where he said to him, "Transfer me each barrel for a pruta." Since each pruta of the wages for another barrel, then even if the employee instructed the worker to transfer nesach wine during the working day, the entire wage minus a single pruta for transfer wine is permitted. So this guy's factory, it didn't just contain nesach wine, it contained regular wine.
Right.
That wine he could be paid to move.
Uh-huh.
So he said, "Move me 100 barrels of wine." He's moving the barrels. This is not yet nesach wine. For each of those barrels, he can get paid for. If he happened to move a barrel of nesach wine, he can't be paid for that. Let's just do a little bit more. Vatanya, and so was to the Brisa, Soches Hapoel, Vamalov, neither worship high as a Jewish person said to him, Hali Meir Chavis, the Meir Prutas. Transfer me 100 barrels for 100 prusas. Finuntis, Chavis Shayan Nesach Benem, and we find that amongst them there was a barrel of nesach wine. Scharo also, he's not allowed to get any money from it. The workers' wages is forbidden from benefit. Chavis, again, we're bringing a raya proof from another brisa that's corroborating what we just said. But if he's paying barrel by barrel, then the barrel from nesach wine that happened to be along it, he can still be paid for everything else, just not for that. The Gemara cites the Mishnah's next clause, and we're going to continue with this tomorrow. I'm sorry, we can finish. It's going to talk about where the idol worshiper hires a donkey from a Jew to transfer nesach wine on it. Its fee is prohibited from benefit. and we will continue there tomorrow. I'm sorry, we're still behind,
Wow.
but we're doing the best we can.
Want to do tonight?
What?
Tonight?
Want to do tonight? No, I want to sleep tonight.
Okay.
All right, we're just gonna
Thank
go as
you,
fast as
Rennie.
we can.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you. Well done.
appreciate it. Thank you.